Here we go. Welcome everybody to another episode of The Big Idea. I'm your host, Dr. Jeffrey Hanna, where we talk about the big idea, how it is that a little vertebra at the base of your head can have a profound impact on your health, well-being, and can change quality of your life. And I want to talk a little bit in this particular episode about football. And don't misunderstand me. I absolutely love football despite all of its challenges, its perils from a health perspective, where of course you can have any number of different injuries. And this is not coming from a place of saying, okay, well, we shouldn't be playing football, or, we don't want to have kids involved and all that sort of stuff. There are the merits, the benefits, particularly for boys developing a sense of discipline, camaraderie, all of that good stuff that comes into playing this particular kind of sport. But we also don't want to shy away from the reality, and that is that you can have a number of different physical injuries as a consequence of that. Of particular concern are going to be whiplashes and concussions. That's where I'm going to be coming from in this particular video here. That just because you might have that knock, that bump, that whatever, it's obvious if a person is knocked out on the field and you have to go through the concussion protocol, but I want to highlight a few interesting things. So whether you are a former football player yourself, whether that was high school, college, or at a much higher level, or if you are the parent of somebody who is or is planning on playing football, these are a couple things I do want you to take into consideration because they're very, very important. First thing, when it comes to the symptoms of concussion versus whiplash, they are almost indistinguishable. The fatigue, the headache, the migraine, the loss of concentration, the brain fog, all of these different things. You cannot tell whether it's concussion or whiplash based on the symptomatology alone. In other words, it's important that we're not just looking at the head function, that we're also considering the neck. And there's a couple of things that we want to keep into account here, particularly as it relates to football-related injuries. Number one, to experience a concussion or to experience a whiplash, you do not have to see stars and you do not need to lose consciousness either. Many injuries are hard knocks and we feel a little bit winded and we kind of shake it off and we're able to get out there. You will pass the concussion protocol tests to see if it's safe for you to get back on the field. Because yes, you may not have had the major overt injury, but you can still have a significant injury that impacts you on the inside. And you can put it down to, it's like, wow, I felt really sore for a couple of days. But that is where we can start to get into trouble. Is we just dismiss that to being sore and achy from the game. We know that all that it takes to produce a whiplash or a concussion injury is an impact of about 5 miles an hour. But when a person is out on the field sprinting, making the tackle, or even a slide tackle where they may not hit another person, but they go up to jump and catch the ball, and then they come down, smash, their shoulder, their back, or their neck, or their head, or whatever on the ground. When you fall, the speed of gravity is going to be around 22 miles an hour. So that's 4 times more than it takes to actually cause an injury. Let alone if you have one person running this way, one person running that way, and you hit like this. We know that the fastest Olympic sprinters, they will sprint at about 22 miles an hour. So imagine, if you would, that what you're going to do is you're going to run headfirst into a door or into a wall. There's going to be a little bit of damage that's associated with that. And granted, you may not be moving quite that fast, when you're wearing your pads and when you're trying to carry a ball. But what a lot of times gets lost in that is even if you were sprinting, let's say only 10 miles an hour one way, which is really not that fast for a dead sprint, so it's probably going to be closer to about 15, maybe 20. But if you've got somebody running at you the exact same speed, that's going to double the relative amount of the impact. Simple law of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So the concussion of forces, when you have two people hit each other like that head on, boom, both of them are going to experience double the impact of the amount of force that they were going forward. And just because you're wearing pads does not protect you against all of those injuries, because the pads, guess what? The neck is still relatively mobile. Even if you're wearing one of the collars to protect the upper part of your back, that is not going to stop the head from getting snapped back and forth. What we also know, and this comes from research that's done on car-related whiplash injuries, is that when you have a head-on collision, many of the signs and symptoms do not actually show up for 2 weeks following the injury. It's obvious if we have instantaneous neck pain, instantaneous brain fog, or blurry vision, or something along those lines. But most of the time, in these quote-unquote low-grade injuries that may not reach the diagnostic threshold for a concussion on the field, those symptoms may not show up for a couple of weeks. And especially if you're dealing with a high school athlete or you're dealing with a collegiate athlete, this will show up in the classroom, where suddenly they were doing pretty good, but now they're feeling more fatigued. They are not able to concentrate as well. The grades start to suffer. They're just not feeling their normal self. They were doing really well, but then suddenly, something feels a little bit off. And granted, when we are kids, when we are younger, our bodies are more flexible. Sometimes those symptoms may not show up for months, sometimes even years after those kinds of injuries. I played football back in high school myself. I absolutely loved it. I wouldn't want to change that experience for the world. And fortunately, my dad was a chiropractor, so I was under care, active care, as I was going through the season. So if I had the injury, I was able to get that, issue resolved pretty much right away. Whether it was the shoulder, whether it was a stinger in the neck. I only ever had one concussion. The irony is it wasn't from a tackle or anything like that. It was when I was going to get some water at a practice, and the coach was passing the ball. I didn't see it. The ball hit me in the head from the side and basically, boom, just knocked me out like that. That wasn't very fun, but it was like, okay, that was kind of embarrassing. And this was before, it's like, okay, he probably shouldn't get back out there and keep playing. But nevertheless, I finished the rest of the practice, but they kept an eye on me and all that good stuff there. So that was a relatively innocuous kind of, episode about, the silliness of how a person can have a concussion. Nevertheless, these kinds of injuries are going to happen to people all of the time. Me, I was at least fortunate that I was able to have care. But how many parents and how many players out there don't actually realize that you can have these kinds of head and neck related injuries, don't do anything about it, don't realize the importance then of making sure that your neck has not actually gone out of alignment, that you've not suffered a low-grade whiplash injury, because if that issue does not get properly resolved, it can start to grow and evolve over a period of time. And that, for a person as they start getting later on in life, and if they continue to play football, that actually sets people up for a higher disposition to re-experience whiplash injuries, to re-experience concussions. In other words, it's easier to experience a second concussion after you've had a first. It's easier to experience a third after you've had a second, etc., etc. And this is the concern that we see for the professional athletes. It's not simply the one hit that they suffered that caused all of the issues. It's the cumulative effect, and it's because they didn't do anything about it, because they didn't realize in the first place the nature of the injuries that had happened. Just because there were not initial signs, initial symptoms, does not mean that everything is okay. Again, it can take upward of 2 weeks before even the earliest signs start to show up when you are dealing with a head or a neck injury, when it's knocked the alignment of your neck off just that little bit. So this is an important public service announcement, if you would. And it's that if you are playing football, enjoy it. But be sure that you are proactive with your health, with your well-being, and taking care of your neck. Because the last thing that you would want is be to experience some of these different kinds of injuries, not do anything about it, and then proceed on with your life as if nothing happened. It's terribly important. If you're if you're playing one of these contact sports, that you're having your head, your neck assessed on a regular basis, making sure that everything is doing just fine. If there's an injury, then that can be resolved so that it doesn't have to be causing long-term issues. This is the importance of making sure you've got a proper chiropractor on your team to make sure that your body is actually going to be able to continue to work for you and not lead to much greater kinds of issues later in life. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed this little video here. If you did, please do click that like and subscribe button. Like it so that other people who need this information are able to find it. If this particular video has struck a chord here, please do share this with friends and family, and you can go to my personal website, which is drjeffreyhanna.com, where you can find all kinds of other blogs, videos related to health conditions associated with the upper neck and what we can do to help. There's also a contact link. That way you can get in touch with me personally. I'd be happy to have a chat with you. And if, of course, you're in the greater Spokane, Eastern Washington, Northwest Idaho region, and if there's something that we can do to help you out, please do reach out to us. I'm part of the team at Chiropractor Spokane. You can reach us by going to our practice website, which is clearchirospokane.com, or you can call us direct at 509-315-8166. Thanks for watching again. Till next time, this is Dr. Jeffrey Hanna at Clear Chiropractic Spokane. Get well, live well, stay well. Till next time, take care, and bye-bye.